Hello, everybody. I'm going to talk about an interview I had with an old colleague of mine regarding tech-enabled instruction. So I'll go over what I learned from her and then go over a lesson plan that she uses in class. Alright, so I'll just begin by introducing the person I interviewed. It's a former colleague of mine at my school who has since moved to America to teach at a public school there. So the questions I asked, you can see what technologies do you use most often in the classroom, how often, how do you learn about new technology and teaching methods, in what ways can tech-enabled learning be superior to lessons without it, the opposite in number 4, also in what ways can students be taught to use online resources appropriately, what technology can be used to collaborate, number 7, how can it be used to encourage self-guided learning, how have you used data to develop and adapt your instruction? And finally, just any final recommendations. So some things she mentioned were helpful for using technology in the classroom were, first of all, just helping them to collaborate outside the classroom in ways that it just couldn't be done before. Also, that technology gives students the freedom to pursue personal and relevant interests. She mentioned a student, for example, who used a video game about World War I as part of their presentation on a specific battle from that war. Also mentioned that digital skills can be applied outside of the classroom as well. Going forward, can be used in all content areas. Some pitfalls she mentioned was that sometimes it's difficult to create the correct environment for bringing technology in. Students obviously need to learn how to use it before it can be used effectively for learning. She also mentioned that sometimes phones or computers can take the place of face-to-face conversation or collaboration in class, which might be a distraction. And lastly, that students who use their own personal computers may have some things that are inappropriate on them. Some sort of advice that she gave was to collect data from students on their assessments just to check on mastery of skills and see areas that might need to be worked on in the future. She mentioned collaborating with colleagues, asking sort of guided questions about technology to get some ideas that they may not offer otherwise. A couple activities she gave were just sort of fun things like making a meme about a character in a novel or something, or tweeting something short to teach summary skills. And lastly, an online scavenger hunt / web quest, which I'm actually going to take a look at in the lesson that I'm going to analyze from her. So this is from her history class. They were making a sort of magazine, newspaper with articles from the Civil War on various topics. So before this, she had them select a photograph and develop sort of like topics, brainstorm some questions that you might want answered about this photo. And then the goal of this is to teach them how to use search engines to find things relevant to what they're studying. This activity took place in the media center, and she began it by reviewing their key questions that they had developed and brought the class ready to type into the search engines. She began by sort of modeling how to do this, allowing them to do it on their own, and rather than just clicking haphazardly to stop. And she then taught them how to evaluate the search results, kind of looking at the short bit of information you get on a Google search or a Bing search or whatever, and deciding which link would give them the answers they were looking for. After doing this, they applied some sort of like scan methods, some making connections, etc., and kind of taking a look to see if it was what they were looking for, and if not, going back and choosing another link. So the end of the class was kind of filling out a worksheet, answering some of those questions, and then giving an exit ticket about their experience looking for that information. And finally, just to sort of analyze her lesson plan a little bit and see if it meets the ISTE standards, uh, just look at our checklist that we made in class. So first, does it make learning goals explicit for feedback? I think that it's sort of part of a bigger project, but that exit ticket definitely gives her a chance and them a chance to reflect on the process. Second, does it provide opportunities to learn to use the internet safely? Doing this in class as opposed to doing it at home obviously helps her sort of create the correct environment and teach the skills so that they are accessing what they should be accessing for class. Does it teach students to construct knowledge through digital resources? to a degree, they're answering some of these questions. I think maybe putting that together is something that may have to be worked on in a later class. Does it allow students to creatively use digital tools? Again, not yet, but ideally in the future, all these pieces will get put together into sort of a coherent whole, uh, probably using some of those digital tools. And finally, does it engage students with research interests? And like this one is very clear to me, like thinking computationally, like looking for information, researching, kind of reading through articles, etc. And also allowing them to choose the picture and create the questions that they want to ask is definitely engaging and sort of gives them a little bit extra motivation. So just to end with a few extra comments on our lesson plan, one thing I really like is the idea of putting all this research together and having it have an end goal of that newspaper is great. Something for them to actually work towards. Second of all, the sort of scaffolding, introducing things step by step, teaching skills that are important in all facets. Maybe one thing I would do in the future is maybe give them a chance to do some of this at home, outside of the classroom to see that it is a relevant thing to do on their own as well. Um, so yeah, that's my interview. I hope that you got a little bit out of it. It was interesting to do. Take care.